Guys, it's me. I'm back.
What's up, party people?
We're like, Mads, come on.
All right, this show is taking a turn for the. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Monster Bass Live. We've been gone for a little bit. We missed you. I missed you. Not being on the show for a while takes a lot out of my system because I get into this routine where I get to chat with you guys once a week and see the guys, and when I don't, things get all thrown out of whack. Well, we got a great show for you today. I love a good controversy, and today we're going to talk about some controversies, and I'd love to know what you guys think along the way. It's been an interesting summer so far. The last few weeks. I think the last time I chatted with you guys, I was getting ready to go to summer camp, and that was a success. I'll tell you guys all about that. But I'd love to know, the Olympics are on. Are you guys watching the Olympics? Because I got to tell you, there's some amazing stuff already happening. Like, who remembers Jimmer Fredette, right? Like, this guy was an NCAA basketball phenom, went to the pros, got drafted by Milwaukee, floated around, didn't do too great. But now he's back in a sport that I didn't even know is an Olympic sport. First of all, baseball is not an Olympic sport, but somehow 3-on-3 basketball is. And Jimmer Fredette is back. And I, for one, am like, welcome back, Jimmer Fredette. Hopefully you're going to help lead us to the gold. I don't know if anyone else saw the women's rugby. Australia probably walked into the arena and was like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to play against wee little USA," and they had us beaten down to the right down to the final minute, and then just one little play, and U.S. stomps it all the way in, and we win a medal, and Australia goes home and drinks some Foster's beer. And, good for them. But, I can't get enough of the Olympics. I love it. It's once every 4 years. You get to see us compete. It's that time of year when all the people that don't really cheer for the U.S. actually come out and cheer for the U.S., so it's pretty interesting. But, we beat Southern Sudan today in basketball. I didn't know that was a thing, but, hey. If we didn't, I would have made sure you knew it was a thing, because if we didn't crush Southern Sudan, I would have probably lost it. But so thanks for being with us, and as always, you can consume this content where you consume your favorite podcast. So whether you're on Amazon, Apple, or Spotify, make sure you bookmark us, like us, leave us a review. And you'll never miss another episode. So let's bring in the guys. I want to talk with them. It's been too long. So how are you guys doing?
Hey, good to be back. Yeah.
What up?
I missed you guys. It's been, like you said, it's been a little weird not having this show. So I definitely miss it, and I'm excited to be back.
It's nice to be back in whack.
What have you guys been doing?
Well, Rob, go ahead.
Olympics.
Yeah. No, come on. You went to ICAST, but I mean, no Olympics at all.
All right. The Olympics are stupid. I'm just going to say it.
Right,
and not for the reasons why you think, but they're designed. It's a soap opera, and I don't like being emotionally manipulated because it's too easy to make me cry. Right. What happens when the World Cup is going on? The World Cup every 4 years, right? Okay. You have people that are going to the Irish bar in Los Angeles at 6:30 in the morning for a 7 a.m. kickoff because that's when the game starts. What happens when the USA barely creeps by Sudan, or when the women's soccer team beats Germany 4-1? They play part of the game hours after it's already been played, broadcast it for the first time. Olympics coverage is designed for emotion. It's not designed for sports. And so that's why I think it's stupid, because emotions are stupid and sports are great.
Emotions.
Wow.
That's a lot. That's heavy. I don't even know how to process all that.
I'm getting Rafi's therapist on the phone.
Yeah.
I mean,
You need some
I got my
couch time.
therapist
No,
right here, which is also our sponsor. High Noon.
Maybe that's the high noon response is High Noon hates the Olympics. I'm going to tell you, I grew up in a house that we love the Olympics. It is weird having to go to like Peacock and log in and you're finding it by sport. You're not like keeping track of where they're at. I know like surfing, I'm super excited about that because they're over in Chiopu and they're surfing like the most dangerous wave in the world. That's been fun.
And
I
by
got
the way,
excited.
Apparently that was a controversy because it's a territory of France and not in Paris. And like, it's just built for drama. It's stupid.
Well, there's no waves in France, but it is like French Polynesia. So it's interesting. And they kind of wrecked the reef a little bit, building the judges tower. So it's all these weird things about how did they let them be there or should they be there? But I watched the Netflix sprint show and learned all about our sprinters. It's pretty cool. So there's a whole show about, we have this guy, Noah. He's incredible. He's like the world's fastest man with the 200 meter and the 100 meter. And I didn't know anything about him. He was like the face of our Olympic team on all the ads. And so I watched the Netflix show while I was working. And now I'm like invested. I got to watch this guy run. Is he like a Usain Bolt? Is he going to start, matching these things? And then Flojo, I'm dating myself, but Flojo's world record is still the jam, like from the 80s. How are people not beating the 100 meter women's world record since like 1988 or whatever it was? So I'm invested. I think it's cool. Like some of the sports, I don't know if they're sports. It's interesting. You're talking 3-on-3 basketball. Why didn't they go 2-on-2? Yeah. It's like a pickup game.
Well,
like, how's that a
baseball?
Disc golf.
Yeah, where's this one? I know, right? It's like that. And the ironic part is they're talking about already. This is going to be a showcase sport, and then skateboarding. It's I don't know.
It's stupid. It's cool. You're right. You're right, Chris. I totally agree with you. The Olympics are stupid.
No,
because if you're really invested in like the fastest man in the world, just like Google him, and you'll know if he won the races like days before they're broadcast here.
No, like I love the drama. No, it's like, it's so cool to watch what has to happen. That's why I like competitive bass fishing. It's like to go fish, to catch fish is all fun, but to have a timestamp that you have to perform under a clock. I think that's like when you're on the starting line, I just love that pressure. And then what everyone turns it into is like, oh, the psychological damage that you do putting pressure on athletes. It's like, okay, then now you can't put pressure on people and it's more about mental health, which I know all of this is such a heavy subject, but I want to see the best athletes perform, so I like it. Controversy. That's what this show is.
All I could think about with Flojo are her nails. Because
her nails.
When I was watching her live, that's all anyone cared about for the emotional housewives that were watching the Olympics. Are like, we have to talk about her nails.
No, the emotional housewives were tuning in for the Nadia Comaneci Tampax commercials.
Yeah.
You want to talk about dating yourself?
Well, wait, hold on a second. Which is weird because we all know that gymnasts, because they ruin their bodies, do not get their periods.
They don't?
No.
Is that a thing?
You lower your body fat level to a certain point. Estrogen versus, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but women that train super hard.
Doctor, wish I was fishing over here.
Yeah, I can get my wife in here, but that's a thing. That is a true deal.
This stuff. I just.
You literally brought it up.
I did, but now I know enough to know enough. I don't
jump.
Enough.
Yeah. No, so I tell you, Olympics, it's on. This is the best segue into the show because the opinions, the segue into controversies, the fishing world controversies. I can't wait. We've got a good guest coming and joining us.
This is the worst segue into the show. You're like, the Olympics don't matter is the best segue.
No,
into this show.
So here's the thing: it's like the controversy of you say it's stupid. I really enjoy it. Rick likes it. We had the opening ceremonies that people lost their minds about it being controversial. Some people hated it. Some people are accepting of it. It's just
some people that were accurate just think that the opening ceremony was stupid. Like Lady Gaga, who's very French, right?
So I think it's to each their own. I think the beauty of all of this. I know this is like this political side, and we had an attempted assassination. I don't even know if we had a show since then. It's so fun to have people with different opinions come together and talk about it rather than cutting people off and saying, I hate you because you believe something else. Okay. And I think that's the important thing is I love that you think they're stupid. I'm not going to change your mind. I don't want to. I want to hear why you think they're stupid, and we could still be friends at the end of the day. And I
love the fact that you love the stupid Olympics. And by the way,
right,
when I watch the Olympics, I get sucked into it because it's really good reality TV.
It is. It's incredible, right? I don't know. What if it's pre-planned? Maybe the gold medals are already all figured out. Maybe there's marketing behind it, and who knows?
Also,
But
I think assassination attempts on presidential candidates is stupid. I think that the Republican Party are geniuses, though.
Oh, all right. On that note, we got a great show for you today. Our guest is also no stranger to controversy. He loves forward-facing sonar, hates fishing private lakes, and I believe his PB is 15. Let's give a big warm welcome to Jeremy fishing the Lonestar. Is he here? No, he's not.
Let's give an ice-cold welcome.
I was just trying to change the topic. I know he's not ready for another 10 minutes. I just did not want to touch politics.
It's good.
Assassination attempts, any of that stuff. But
let's go to religion. Wait, let's go. No, Joe.
yeah,
no,
let's talk about.
Let's talk about it. Let's get a product update.
Okay,
We got a Grande Mess update.
Is stupid.
Yeah. So, Rafi, what?
Yes.
You went to ICAST.
I did.
How was it?
ICAST was awesome. ICAST, I'm categorizing that under not stupid. It was so, Rick, the first and only time that I went there, you and I went, and it was nicknamed iCovid. And I remember when I first started to get into motocross and supercross, and a friend of mine who was really well networked into that world was like, you haven't lived until like you just felt the power and the energy standing behind the starting gate, like, as the race is called, before they all like break out of the gate. And I was like, oh, really? That sounds awesome. And he's like, yeah, stand right here. And as soon as I realized that nobody was standing next to me, and this was in Anaheim at the Anaheim Stadium, like the gate goes down and everyone just goes, brah, and all of a sudden, like all this, like, like big dirt chips just start pelting me, and he's off in the side, like laughing hysterically. And when we were at iCovid at ICAST, the first time, Rick said the same thing. He's like, you really haven't lived until like you see the energy of people and like, just like guests and pros and retailers and dealers and distributors just standing outside of the show waiting for the doors to open. He's like, it is just something to behold, and it will give you a really good understanding of the energy of the bass fishing community and industry. And we go there, and Rick looks around and goes, uh-oh. And there was nobody there, And when was this? 21, I think?
Something like that,
yeah. And, I was there with Coley Mack and with Matt Brown. And we walked up early, and we were able to get in because we were exhibitors there. And it was the way that you had described it. Like, it felt like it was back. Like, the energy around bass fishing and fishing in general was back. There was a lot of like really like cool, unique and new products that were out there, but it was something that maybe I haven't felt since like the classic, right? Which is just, but from a completely different angle of like the energy of fishing.
Really?
My dad once described, growing up in an Orthodox Jewish community, you had like basketball heroes that were 5'6". So this 5'6" basketball hero named Alicia Rothman was like number one in the LA Jew League, which is not bragging, it's just factual. And my dad described him in a way where he's like, he just has a basketball in his hand and he breathes in like the fumes of the ball, and it just like energizes him. And like, that was what ICAST sparked in me, was that memory that people are just breathing in like soft plastics, and like the way that the industry even just smells, and we're just getting.
I have a difference of opinion now that I'm a little older and wiser. If I have to watch another video from a content creator touting this game-changing new technology that's going to make a bait casting reel spin or retrieve line 0.001% faster, I'm going to eat my own vomit. Like, Like it's awful.
Yeah, but that's because content creators, no offense to all the content creators that might be listening, are like the producers of the Olympics for the bass fishing world. Like it's just, it's about creating views, follows, clicks, likes, and conversions rather than like being in or of the industry. But watching like grown men without a camera on them, you know, look at the action of a certain bait and just go, whoa, you know, or watching people gather around because like this new company is, or this company's unveiling like a new kayak or whatever it is. And just like, it's way more, I think that's the point, Rick, is that it's way more pure. Like, I feel like they shouldn't let content creators in ICAST because they kind of blow it.
I agree. It used to be, and actually, you know what? Let's transition for a moment and come back to this because our guest is here, and I would love to bring him on because I think he'll have an opinion on this as well. But
well, he makes a homecast. Remember, he did the homecast. I don't know if people saw that. So instead of going to ICAST, he's done his own homecast. So
for sure, and it's way better.
Segment.
It's way better
Yeah,
with less drinking, is what I've been told. Because I didn't go to either. But our guest today is, like I said before, is no stranger to controversy. He is a Democrat, anti-gun,
in and out loving,
Whataburger hating Texan, and a good friend of the show
who thinks
right now, Jeremy Francis.
Jeremy, I have it on good authority that you think Buc-ee's has the second cleanest bathrooms in Texas.
Yeah.
Man,
second only to
Look
the
how red his
AMPM
face is.
in Tulsa.
Just
cheeks are
dumping
like,
on you on your
cheeks
welcome.
are like
I'm
Rudolph's
sorry, man.
nose. Look at
first
that.
of all, I realize I missed both audio, visual, and makeup earlier, but can you hear me and see me okay?
We can.
Yes.
I got you.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
You look good.
Cool.
You look good.
Yeah.
Man, where do we even begin with that intro?
Yeah. I mean, call me the patron saint.
How do you feel about the Olympics?
I mean, we're just gonna start there. Are we really?
Yeah, aren't you pissed that there's no baseball? But don't worry, we've got 3-on-3 basketball and synchronized swimming.
Right, and slow pitch softball and t-ball. And,
All right.
and 3-on-3 baseball.
All right, now it's his turn. Let's go. Sorry.
We're gonna get into some topics, and we're gonna ruffle some feathers tonight. If anyone knows me personally, I love to debate. I'll even pick a side that I don't even care to be on just to argue. I love it, and I at the end of it, I never have any hard feelings. Some people do. I realize that, so I've kind of had to change my tactfulness in how I approach some debates. But I will say that I do love the Olympics. I love just bringing a country together to cheer for something. Not a big fan of how these Olympics opened, but I do love the Olympics. So we'll put it that way.
Wow. Okay. And how do you feel we did against in shooting sports as a country? Pretty good, right?
I didn't actually see shooting sports, but interesting fact.
We didn't win anything.
Well, one of our Olympians I do know, his name is Gary Burrow. He's actually on the Shields pro staff shooting team. I know he's at least won previous medals because I've held him in my hand. But anyways, I actually do know one of our Olympic shooters.
All right.
Kim Yeji, or if that's how you say her name, is the only Olympic shooter that you need to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is in the trap shooting. So I don't know if they've done trap shooting yet, but he's one of the trap shooters. So
I'm not going to say it.
Yeah. So before you got on the show, we were talking about ICAST, and Rafi was talking about the beautiful energy and how everyone, it just brings the industry together. And then I offered up my new and improved, as I'm older and wiser, opinion about how it feels to me like it's been ruined because every content creator on the planet now has to go and create content and start selling me on all these ridiculous features that are not game changing, but they're gonna accentuate, they're gonna enunciate, and they're gonna tell me all the reasons why they can't wait to throw this thing.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy. Like cancel YouTube for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I personally have not been to ICAST, mainly because I run out of vacation days at work before we get to July. So I never have any vacation days left to take off to go to ICAST. But what I've gathered, just being in the industry and being very involved in bass fishing over probably the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, is it has gone from one thing to a whole new thing that ICAST is now. And I'm not sure people necessarily intended it to be what it is today. I think it's lost a little bit of value of what the real intention is of ICAST. But I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent, but what it is today is not what it was even several years ago. But yeah, to Chris's point, I did enjoy Homecast a couple years ago, which was basically just a parody of ICAST, and I had a lot of fun. But that was really just rooted out of jealousy because I couldn't be there, so I just made up my own crap at home. So
it was appreciated. No, I went to ICAST. I had a great time. I think it's always things perspective in life, the eye of the beholder. You can make, I think if you look for the bad, you're going to find bad. If you look for the good, you're going to find good. I don't know what ICAST specifically wants to have happen. I think that's an industry question where it used to be a spot where you would gather purchasers and fill out order forms. But that's so automated now. Now you're going through distributors. They're having SKUs matched with your point of sale. They already know you've sold 10 packages of soft plastics. It's updated. That's coming on your next order. You don't even have to talk to your customers anymore if you're a large retailer at some point. So it's really weird where they're having to say, okay, we still need to have you pay for a booth. You still need to invest in ICAST. You still need to spend $30,000 to be here to show your product. But, oh, by the way, all your influencers are already selling it to people. They're already on the shelves at your big box stores. So I don't know what ICAST needs to have happen. I love what Rafi said is going there. I think that the human connection is so important that we, in this digital society, we miss that. And so if ICAST is what brings humans together to, I mean, really, honestly, shaking hands and high-fiving and look at this cool product, that is a value that is super underrated. And I hope that people, when I went just to meet friends from across the nation as a gathering location, it's a lot of money to do that. But when you get to see the people you've talked to online and actually get to be a part of another human's excitement towards a sport, I'm all for that. So if that's what ICAST does and you look towards that as the reason you're there, I think you're going to be stoked. But if you're there, like, let's find out the new lure of like who won the great new hard bait. Maybe they flew in a lot of their influencers or sales team.
Not maybe.
Okay.
I met with a lot of influencers that were flown in specifically for there are 3 things that I learned at ICAST.
Yeah, tell us, because this is the real controversy, and this is like not to pick on ICAST, right. But if you get to fly on that,
but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, if you get to fly people in to vote on a product, I wasn't there, so Rafi, I'm just setting you up because I've been there and I've seen who wins different products. Some of the brands I work with won new hard baits, different things. Tell us about that process of this new, and did you pay, is there a fee to enter in a product?
Yeah.
Tell us.
So, okay. So the 3 takeaways, right? And I'll end with the topic that you want to discuss. The first one is that as a growing brand, ICAST is important. Now, for some of the larger brands, I couldn't tell you why it would be important, but they're representing Grande Bass and having that face-to-face with people, showing them like the baits in action. Having Matt Brown there was amazing because that guy was born for fishing and sales. Like, he's kind of a superhero in my opinion. But ICAST, really, really important being there on behalf of Grande Bass. And I was on the fence going. It was just one of those things where Rick and I were like, all right, let's roll the dice and go. And the worst that can happen is we come back penniless and sad. Second thing is that influencers ruin everything. And I defy you to find an industry.
wait, just a second. Hey, Jeremy, we just both need to take a deep breath.
Hold on. You guys are anglers and you guys are teachers and you guys engage with your audience in a very different way. And you're not pay to play. Like, an influencer, in my opinion, is somebody who is like, they get paid to represent a brand and then it's on to the next paycheck. It's not people who are like, you guys would be doing this anyway. And it just so happens that you work with brands that you love because I've seen both of you turn down opportunities that were big opportunities to work with brands that you don't like or don't support. So in my opinion, I can't lump you guys in with influencers.
I would agree with that. 100%.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so
the third thing
Ooh.
And final thing, that like the new product highlights or the best new products of
the showcase. Yeah, new product showcase.
that is
Woo-hoo.
such a racket. So
It is.
you need to submit and pay per entry in order to
Do
submit.
you know? Can you? What does it cost? What I want to know.
I
What does it
don't
cost?
know. I don't.
want to.
We should. Fixie, can you
I
look
gotta
that
learn.
up for us?
No. Here, I can tell you the answer, and I can also tell you the secret behind winning. So the answer is you pay your membership, because first of all, you can't attend and have a booth without paying your membership, then buying your booth, and then paying Freeman's ridiculous rates. You know, I'm going to pay $1,000 so I can have internet access, right? So you pay all these fees, and then because you're attending the show as an exhibitor, you can enter products. You can enter as many as you want, but you need to do this months ago. It's not like you can decide in June, hey, we're going to attend ICAST because we as a small business have this great, compelling product, and we're going to get it into the showcase. No, that was already submitted and done by, I don't know, April 30th, right? So once you're in, you're in. Then comes all the greasing. And who's the best at it, or was the best at it? Live Target was the best at it before they sold the company. And when we launched this company, we worked with someone that worked at Live Target to help us. And this is what they would do. They would literally hold, the day before ICAST, they would hold a press conference. And I kid you not, I'll never forget, Gary called me up and he said, we'd like you to come to the press conference, and we are going to invite every single one of your influencers. And you walked in, and it was like the NBA finals. You had a giant table in the front, and you had every guy in their costume, you know, up front to give credibility. And then you had some guy who's hosting the event, giving the presentation, talking about the bait design, doing all these different things. And then, you know, each pro walks up and talks about, oh, the role that I played in making this and why this is the greatest bait ever. And then you walk out. Every writer's invited to it. And you know what every writer walks out of there with? Probably like $500 worth of product that they get to either go resell or they get to do something else. But don't think for a second they weren't greased to get there. And then the dog and pony show that was put on to get you to buy their vote. And so if you think the best product wins, it doesn't. Because I sat there with Wes, the previous owner of Rattletrap, who came out at the time with a stutter step, right? Now, we all know it wasn't the greatest, but in terms of unique, I mean, there was nothing more unique that year than that. He didn't follow that same thing, and Live Target won again, right? So it just comes down to who's going to grease the most palms and who's going to pay to have the most people show up and who's going to run the most campaigns ahead of time. That's just my opinion.
Are we talking about ICAST or politics?
Yeah.
I kind of got lost. Well, I was like, this is advertisement. The most ads ran during bass fishing tournaments. I think it's kind of that whole same thing is,
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to buy advertisement. And I think, I mean, when you really consider, I'm an event guy with the background of putting on events similar to this, rented Cal Expo multiple years in a row, like 20 years in a row for breast cancer events. The cost for ICAST to take over that facility is immense. The requirements to have, I mean, just the volume of dollars they have to generate to make that all work financially, they've got to find revenue streams everywhere they can. So understanding the business side, but it's just a bummer because at a certain point, it's almost like you need an opportunity for the little person to shine. But I think then, like, who cares about the new bait showcase? I think that can kind of become a racket to have the opportunity for a no-name to buy a 10x10 booth and let their product speak for itself. I think Rafi can attest to that. Is like, you have a brand that you brought out. Basically, it was like known as a Texas brand. Give us some feedback of what you learned, like in the exposure you got. Did you meet some Florida people that had never seen grande bass? Because I think that's a cool inside view of like, where was your booth located? I think you told me it's by the bathroom, which is genius to be by the bathroom because everyone's going to go to the bathroom. But
there was
whether
so
that was
many
your
bathrooms.
yeah, so whether it's your choice or not of because you can get hosed being put out somewhere where no one's going to get you this foot traffic, and you have to pay for those locations. But the reality, what did you learn? Like, what was your feedback from people that had never heard of the brand? Because I think that's an important story.
It is. I just need to send this one text to a troll that I
I saw that in the chat.
24-hour timeout.
Fair enough.
And
Scene.
it moving. Okay, got it. What was your question again? No, so there were so there were three types of people there. Some who were really, really excited to see Grande Bass there and just had to tell us about their experience with the brand, about the fish they catch, about their relationship with Jerry and old ownership, and it was really awesome to see that there was like this connection with the brand itself that went beyond fishing, and it wasn't Jerry's buddies, or it was just people who had a great experience with Grande Bass, and they were super excited that we were there. There were some people that had never even heard of the brand, but like when we showed them like the action of like the Airtail Wiggler or the Rattler, or I had thought, I think I told you this offline, Chris, that I had thought that the Snako was just like a fun gimmick. Like I thought that it was like the mountains turning blue when your Coors can is cold.
Oh no, that works.
And I told you, no, that's what I told you.
That works.
True.
That's real.
No, but I told you, like with that thing in the water, when you see it, and that tail wiggles
the
like
snapping
no
tail action. I mean, seeing like grown men, just kind of like
total
like
geek out. They're geeking out. Yeah, they're
totally geek out on the action was awesome. And so putting Grande Bass on their radar, and in a sea of all of these amazing soft plastic brands, realizing just how special you have it in the way that you stand out. And also, it was weird. We were the only aquarium, because we had this little 10x10, and we kept all of our baits in there for all 3 days of the show, that did not turn murky. Now, I don't know what that means, but it was kind of fun with these huge aquariums that were just really cloudy and you couldn't see after a while, and they just looked a little chintzy. And then
I was going to tell you, when you mentioned that to me, I didn't bring it up to you when we were talking. Chlorinated water is going to break down the plastics differently, and to have your plastic withstand that. Hey, Bubbly, welcome to the show. But to have a plastic that withstands chlorinated treated water as well, and your baits, the feel. I mean, Grande Bass baits are not rigid and hard to use. They're awesome, but at the same time, they're not breaking down sitting in water. That's an important piece to consider, what that's doing to your bait and your fishability. Is there any? I mean, this is one thing to realize. Is there anybody else in the entire industry that has an Airtail option to put a rattle in the back end of a soft plastic? Does somebody else make that? Jeremy, do you know of anybody? I don't know of anybody.
There are people who have started to mimic the ridges of the rattlesnake.
G-Crack's the most notorious. I mean, they came out with it, and you'd think that they invented it.
Yeah. No, G-Crack. I mean, they've done great baits.
They've done great.
The thing is, like,
let's talk about them for a second. Let's talk about them. This
is good.
Brought that up. So, Rick, I don't remember. It was towards the winter.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
Whether that be December or whether that be January, February, but the Thunderhawk.
Yeah.
The little lure that came out. I personally shared it and thought that it was pretty incredible, because what Thunderhawk openly did is they said, hey, we're taking what G-Crack has done, but we're making it out of the Elastec material so that it will actually last longer. Now, everyone's like, oh, you're copying this, you're copying that. And Thunderhawk said, call it copying, call it making it better, but that's what we did. Like, we took it and made it better.
For sure.
Now, the interesting part about that is, guess what has recently been promoted now by G-Crack?
Right. They did the same thing.
They now have the material that is the Elastec-esque type material, making it very stretchy. So I'd ask you, would G-Crack have ever done that had Thunderhawk not made them do it, because of the competitive advantages by making their product better?
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Thunderhawk, they missed a huge opportunity not coming out with a new bait called the Thunderhawk Tua. Same with Hook clothing,
missed opportunity. But going back to Grande Bass, I mean, I think there are very unique differences, and it's, one thing going back to like 4 years ago, no longer than that, maybe 5 years ago. I don't know. Like, one of the very first boxes I received, had a bait that said, "Oh, it stands up underwater." And I said, "All right, well, let's see. Like, prove it. Like, I want to see it." Like, so I went and did my own underwater test, and I was like, "All right, it actually knows what it says." You know, and how many baits are unique or different in a world of this is new and this is unique and different? Like, how many of them actually are? That's one thing that I think Grande Bass has a very unique approach, and the way the airtail causes that lure or allows it to stand up and float. Like, it is a very unique difference, and everyone's out searching for a better way to draw a fish's attention to get a bite. I'm telling you that floating tail makes a world.
So somebody talked about, oh God, I probably shouldn't share this secret, but I'm going to, because
Sure,
why not?
sure. Spill the beans. That's right.
But the way that like the rattlesnakes, when they're underwater and you just kind of jerk on them, and they have that little like the micro bubbles that spray off or whatever. Somebody like he actually sat with me for about 5 minutes telling me how many problems that would solve, because he buys Alka-Seltzer powder and like inserts it into the tail of like certain baits or coats certain baits so that when it hits the water, little bubbles pop off. And this was saving his Alka-Seltzer problem.
No, like people crush the
solving
tablets. They'll
Yeah.
crush them up. They'll try to impregnate, push. Sometimes I look. This is just my opinion. This is why the controversy comes in. If your fish are that finicky, they've maybe seen the same bait too many times. Like this is the one reality of like, where are you fishing and what are you doing? I don't know why I think this is a controversy. I don't think fish are that smart. I know when you're trying to catch the most elaborate, biggest, craziest fish, but when we do our lunker system, like we ShareLunker, we can talk about that later. But when we do our fish at the beginning of the show, they're normally just caught on standard baits that people kind of maybe accidentally catch a fish. And I think that's the fun of ICAST, is like worrying about those little extra things to get that one little extra bite. But really that tunes into a person that's just trying to tweak something to have a little more fun. I mean, realistically, it's fun with forward facing sonar, which is a whole nother topic that I can't wait to argue with Jeremy about, but it is so fun to see a person throw a dumb bait right in front of a fish. I don't care what brand it is. And it's like, oh, we're hover strolling. Oh, they're wiggling the bait, and it's wiggle, and it sits in front of the fish. And then the fish is like, I'll eat it. And they've done nothing. They haven't done anything fancy. It just finally that fish is like, I'm kind of sick of this thing in front of my face. And it just decides to eat it. So
I'm gonna spite feed.
Right. And it's like, it's not even eating it. It's like, get out of my way. I would punch you in the face if I had an arm, but I don't. I have a mouth that has to take care of this action. So I love the tweaking, the tinkering, the worrying. Like you mentioned, printing fish scales on soft plastics, like the stuff that's really coming out.
Photo real. It was awesome.
It's like, oh my gosh, a guy's sitting there with Sharpies. And like sometimes I'll add an extra eye on my
I could put some of those in a sardine can and like send it to my mom and say, try this. And she would. Like that's my realistic though.
With indie fishing, what Christopher, he's indie fishing on Instagram. I always just respond to him like, I'd eat it. He shared like a headless crankbait. I think it was today. And it's like, some of these baits are so cool looking. And it's always like, I'd eat it. Partly as a fish, because it's going to be something cool. But the other part is a fisherman. You got to sell them on something. So the reason I mentioned Grande Bass is the tail is unique. Yes, you can slip a bead or the rattle inside of any other soft plastic anywhere you want, but to have a bait made with a carrying capacity in the back end specifically for that, that's cool. You got a unique bait, and you're like the best kept secret in the fishing world because most people haven't seen that brand. So how cool is that to go to ICAST and have people see it, share it, hopefully buy it? And then I think that's a cool thing with the show. The other side is you got to decide, is it good enough to go to a big bass tournament? Is it cool? Is it just street cred to be at ICAST? I mean, those are business decisions, and that's a budget point at that. But, sure. I think we beat that. I mean, let's get into some controversy. Can we go further than ICAST? And we got Jeremy on here. And I know Jeremy, I hate to beat the horse to death, but I want to get your perspective. You added live 360 on your boat. And you and I kind of like, we will argue forever. And then both of us could care less if we go our separate ways. So people don't know, post show, we'll text or talk for like an hour later. Why is side imaging, downward facing sonar, and live 360 legal, and forward facing sonar, as Rafi would put, stupid?
So I'll make a correction, and then
All
I'll
right.
pose a question back. So it's actually not live 360. It's
Okay,
just
hold on.
a 60 transducer. So it is not live.
So what's the
There's
delay?
a 10
what can
second
you get?
delay, just in case the fish swear or something.
Do you know how long it is? It's like 10.
The delay, you can change the settings in terms of how fast sweep is. I would
Yeah.
say at best, it's probably maybe a 2 to 3 second delay before it gets all the way back around to that same spot again. At worst, it's probably more like a 8 to 10 second delay. The slower the rotation, the more crisp the image is because there's more readout that obviously the speed allows the transducer to get. The faster it is, the less clear it is. But I would pose the question, if it was the same as forward-facing sonar, which is a live image, then there wouldn't have ever been a need for forward-facing sonar. 360 did the job already. So totally different between the two. I use 360 or side imaging mainly just to locate cover or structure. Or really cover you can see. It's structure that's on bottom that you're trying to identify with either 360 or side imaging. So I just use it for the perspective of I had side imaging. I was tired of getting past something with my boat and then having to turn around and throw back at it. With 360, I can actually see the brush pile underneath the water before I get to it. So for me, it was more of like I just got tired of turning back around, marking a waypoint, and then trying to throw at it. I can see it before I get to it now with 360. But it is not even close to live. Like you can see a fish show up on the sweep, and then the next time it sweeps again, the fish is over here. And you don't see it swim. You would have no clue if you threw your lure if the fish was coming towards it or something away from it.
Right.
It is not even close to like what forward-facing sonar is.
Yeah, that's good. That's perfect definition of not being able to fish the bait in front of it to see its reaction. You're not going to learn what a fish does, whether it's a deep crank and how it's pulling it 10, 20 feet away. You're looking at water columns of fishing different baits at different spots. So I agree with you. It's one of those things. You're using a tool that helps you identify fish habitat. You can't actually see these shadows of fish. I remember the first time I was fishing next to my buddy in a kayak and he had live 360 and he's like, oh yeah, there's a fish like 45 feet out in front of me off to the right. And I'm like, what? He's like, oh, I can see a little shadow. And he threw over there and threw a drop shot. We're at Folsom Lake, which I am terrible at fishing at. And it's hard to find fish, but he caught the fish from his live 360. And I was like,
Amazing.
You cheater, you sandbagger. I can't stand that. But again, it's seeing underwater. It's fishing with the crystal ball. And then the next level is forward facing. So not to beat that to death, but it is cool that you recognize the difference. You still obviously like the mystery of fishing structure and the wonder and the joy of finding if there's fish in that structure. I don't want to speak for you, but it seems like that's what you enjoy. Is that true?
Yeah, and look, I'm a guy who, when I go fish, like let's say, for example, if I go Saturday morning, it's going to be probably from 6:30, 7 a.m. till noon at best. On a good week, I get 4 to 5 hours to go fish. I'm not out there all day. I do work a full-time job. I'm not out fishing anytime during the week. I go to church Sunday mornings. Although we just started going to the 1 o'clock service, that does give me time Sunday mornings to go fish. But every now and then I'll go Sunday evenings. Point is, like when I have 4 or 5 hours in the water, I want to go fish the way I want to go fish. So it's the same reason why I don't carry any spinning gear on my boat with me. Now, I grew up using a spinning rod and reel. It's how I used to catch fish for 37 years before I got into bass fishing and switched over to bait casters. But now I love power fishing and bait casters so much that I almost never fish slow. Like the slowest I'll fish is with a shaky head, and it's just constantly dragging it back to the boat. I almost never just let it pause or sit there. So that being said, it's more of like a style and a preference. But yes, like that being said, I enjoy, it's what got me hooked to begin with was the reeling and the shock and the surprise that, oh, I just like got a bite. I'm going to set the hook without actually seeing a fish come and swim right up to it. So it's my, there's people that use live shiners and are out fishing, in Okeechobee and catching fish on live shiners. Like, go do what you want to do. That's just my personal preference of how I like to fish, and why I also don't really do a whole lot of finesse stuff.
Yeah. I love it. No, I mean, that's the thing. It's personal preference. That's the beauty of this sport. if you're not fishing for a paycheck, if you're not fishing against someone else, you're fishing for your own enjoyment. Who cares how you fish? I mean, I use spinning reels a lot. I'm connected in the saltwater world where they're not really using a bait caster ever. Once the fish get over a certain poundage, they need the different drag that a spinning reel will offer. And so the bait caster is not the rod of choice. So it's interesting where we all decide what we like to do and to have that option. It's like, what a cool opportunity to be in a sport. I mean, people they'll argue like, oh, cheating this, cheating that. But what I want to know, do you think it's cheating to play fish, bait, sound underwater? Would you ever do that?
I mean, that's been going on for years.
Yeah, no, this is one thing. Most people know that? Like, you can play the sound of mating and feeding bait fish under your boat. And
have you ever tried that with Teddy Pendergrass also being blasted underwater? Oh man!
I wonder what other music like.
Gross.
No, it's like these mating rituals of fish. Like, it's just funny like that. It's like when you go out on a boat and you put down sounds. That's like chumming for fish. Like, you're literally
Livingston
using
lures, right? I mean, that's all that they do.
Yeah, you're using an audible call, but you're playing with a speaker. There's a speaker under your boat. It's bait fish sound. Fish are going to hear it. They're going to come towards your boat, which is ironic. Like, you're not drawing them all the way to your boat. Does it even help? I don't have any reference to whether it works, but I do know a lot of pros play noise from their boat to entice fish. What's your feeling on that?
I mean, in general, look, I've never said forward-facing sonar is cheating, because that plays into a rule book. And if the rules allow it, then so be it. It's allowed. So I won't say it's cheating per se. You know, and there's certain degrees we could take this all the way to. Anyways, we can run with this many different directions, and usually this is where the conversation goes. You know, does it give you a certain competitive advantage over not using it?
Totally.
For some reason, that's where a lot of people have a hard time saying, yes, this gives me a strong competitive advantage. And I don't really understand why people have a hard time saying that, whether that be about producing sound or whether it's about using forward-facing sonar. I would absolutely tell you, like, yeah, being able to see a brush pile like 45 degrees in front of my boat instead of me getting to it and seeing it when I pass it is a big advantage. Having side imaging to even see it pass it is a big advantage of not being able to see it at all. Like, yeah, those are absolutely an advantage. Why else would I spend the money to add those things to my boat? But then when it comes to forward-facing sonar, you say, oh, that gives you a big competitive advantage. And I was like, well, you still got to catch them. Well, yeah, no crap. Like, obviously, you still got to catch the fish. You still got to know what to do with the lure in the presentation. But can we at least admit that forward-facing sonar gives you a big advantage? And I
think pros are past that. I mean, that's that thing, is that was a conversation I think last year. Now they're like, I have to do this to compete, which is probably the same in some kind of semantical review of like, this does help me. It helps them stay. They're like, oh, these, well, you know, whatever they're calling them, but it is like an admittance now that you have to pay that game to play. So I think that's why the conversation is kind of a mute conversation. If you're going to compete on a tour level against people using that tool, you probably need to use the same tool. I mean,
and here's my take on that really quickly, which, by the way, you brought up forward-facing sonar, not me. I was going to bring up other topics today, but since we're on it, look, I'm a guy who fishes once or twice a weekend. Do I know what I'm doing? I feel like I do. I feel like I have a pretty good idea. I can show up to a lake, though, that I haven't been to in 3 months. And in that 4 or 5 hour window, I can pretty much figure out what the pattern is, what colors they're after. Are they chasing bait? Are they just eating off the bottom? Like, I can figure that out in 4 or 5 hours and at least walk away with a couple of fish when I go out. Like, I'm not at all saying I never get skunked. That's not true. I'd be lying if I said that. People would call me out because I've been on my boat plenty of times when I haven't caught fish. But more times than not, I'm going to locate fish. The fact that professional fishing have 3 or 4 days on a lake to practice and locate fish with 8 graphs on their boat and everything else, and still have the mentality that I can only do this if I can see the fish swimming after my lure, and if I twitch it the right way, or this color jerk bait or that color jerk bait. That's, to me, where, personal opinion, I just wish the sport in general would be better than that. But
I'll tell you, to end it to easy, like an easy put, like to move on. when I fish with guys that are good at it, they're not just using it to catch a fish. They're using it now to specifically target a fish of a certain size. That's the difference. And that's how good they are. They're not even wasting their time throwing a bait to a fish that's 2.5 pounds if they need a 5-pounder. You can see the different identities of species now. You can see how they interact with your lure. You can see the way the fish holds in the water. You know what kind of fish it is. You know what size it is. And that eliminates your job to get the, like, oh, I have this dopamine release because I go out and I catch a few fish. I figure out the pattern. They're like, their dopamine release of being successful as a tournament angler is catching 5-pound fish. So I think that's the difference of us, of like, this is what we're trying to accomplish: a good day fishing, having fun with the family. I love to make things harder. And that's my controversy. People get mad. I go out fishing with my kids, my wife, or playing music. We're on a pontoon boat that's banging noise and resonating and scaring fish. I then have to cast further away. I have to choose. I'm fishing on something that's really problematic to catch fish, but I'm trying to utilize my skill set to even still be able to have the enjoyment, to have some fun. So it's kind of funny where it's totally counterintuitive to being successful, and we kind of set ourselves up for failure.
Isn't that the beauty of fishing? Like that's why, like, for the life of me, I can't understand why this is even a conversation. It's like,
right.
There's two different types of anglers out there. There are people that are just on the water to have the experience, and they're going to choose to have whatever experience is most meaningful to them, whether it's making things harder, whether it's some people make things harder because they're trying to perfect new techniques, and they want to figure out a new technique, and they know all day with their like confidence bait, they can catch everything on the water, but they decide that they want to learn how to do something different. And so they stick with that. It's not controversial. It's a personal choice based on somebody's experience and what's important to them. Right. And
it's America. It's all about voting with your dollar. You hate forward facing sonar. You hate seeing it on the Pro Tour. Don't watch it. Don't log in. Don't support the people.
Tournament fishing and the Pro Tour, right? Like, they'll do whatever it is that they can to get that competitive edge. Like, why are we not talking about how so many people are fishing with like one bait and then holding up their sponsor bait and saying, this is the thing that I caught it with? Like, it's let's about move into that. Yeah.
You know, let's
do it. It's like, but it to me, I think of it as like, you have two people. They both want to find a girl, and one person wants to find a girl that they're going to fall in love with and marry and start a family with. They're not going to go out to a bar and pull out the drunkest, fattest girl just because they're looking to hook up, right? Like a tournament angler would, because they're just going for weight. You know, they're going to go somewhere else. They're going to go to church. They're going to go to their community groups. They're going to go to wherever it is, you know, so it's like, it's just a different style. And I feel like applying the need of these different types of, you know, whatever anglers, and just lumping it all in as it's either good or bad, it's either controversial or it's not. It kind of misses the whole point of the fact that fishing is very personal, and it's your relationship with it, and it's whatever works for you. And if you don't like tournament angling, then don't watch it and don't join the tour. And if you want to make your life a little bit more difficult because like that's exciting to you and that's the experience that you're looking for, then do that. Like, of course, do that.
Did Rafi just fix the whole world? Did you just say you can do whatever you want and stop adding like your ideological, I'm better than you because I do this or that? Did you just fix everything in the whole world so people can make their choices and we all need to get along? Because that's
no, I'm not letting you go there. No, it's not.
Jeremy's got this. Jeremy loves to be right, but at the end of the day, like you said, you'll argue even if you're arguing the opposing.
Jeremy idea, is right because it's all about his experience. So he's arguing for a point that's meaningful to him, and I totally respect it. Just in the same way that you're like, I acknowledge the fact that you think that the Olympics are stupid. And yes, I could see your point on why you think that if you're looking at it from just a pure like sport point of view, that the way that it's broadcast maybe isn't like what you need. But you gave that to me and then shared with me what you like about the Olympics, where it's about just watching humans just do things that are like impossible to most of us, watching people at like their peak level of physicality, you know, just destroy other countries. There's nothing more American than that, by the way.
Fair enough.
No, I will recommend it. It'd probably get me in trouble, but Kevin Hart, there's another comedian. The two of them do like an Olympic update, like every 3 days. Probably the most irreverent, horrible, worst thing ever. But it's a comic view of what's going on at the Olympics. They're hilarious. But that's the joy of all this, is like, we're talking about some stuff. I do want to get into some more controversial topics. I don't have proof.
Question, Chris.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go for it.
topic, which again, you guys brought up forward-facing sonar, not me. I just want to make that clear. I want to state that again for the record.
I love it. See this? We want to move it.
Forward-facing
Go.
sonar should be a new euphemism for boob job, by the way. Anyway, go on.
I want to ask a question. All right. I'm a very analytical person. I'm a numbers guy. I think because you can remove a lot of emotions and just look at a lot of facts and numbers and statistics. So I went through the ShareLunker program in the state of Texas, and I went and downloaded all the records of every fish that had been caught over 10 pounds over the last, like since the inception of the program, since they started keeping records. And I plotted it out over a chart, and you can see this sharp incline of 10-pound fish or greater that have been caught in the state of Texas when the introduction of forward-facing sonar took place. So I'll pose the question. Like there's no doubt about it that it absolutely aids in helping people catch bigger fish. It's statistically proven. Like, you cannot argue that. I can show you the numbers. Happy to send them to anyone who would like them. I'll send you the numbers. But the question should be, that I have, is should there then be, let's just say for the state of Texas and the ShareLunker program, 2 different state records, one pre or without using forward-facing sonar and one with using forward-facing sonar?
So it's the steroid era. We're talking about home runs now.
But yeah, that's the thing, is if it's legal, who cares? Like that's like, okay, then it's, you have to say, okay, I caught this on a worm, I caught this on a live bait shiner, whatever's legal for their water. And that's the reality of a jurisdictional agency's control over a sport. If it's legal, who cares what they did? That's the reality of, like, that buys into, like, I'm better than you because I caught mine accidentally on my first cast off the dock and I didn't use forward-facing sonar. Well, I use so who cares? And that's why the fun of that is the controversy of, is it legal? Yes. Did it help you? Maybe, maybe not, but you caught the fish. That's what ShareLunker's about. I think the fun part is when was the last world record broken? And when did the fish size start to decline? Had nothing to do with forward-facing sonar. And those are like the real controversial things of, like, what are we doing for bass fishing? I posted on my sock page and personal page today. What we all want to go out and catch fish. We're doing all these great things. I'm like, oh, it's so awesome. I'm teaching kids. What are we all doing to make fishing, like the fish, bigger or better or sustaining? That's the real question I have for people. It's like, how selfish are all of us going out catching fish, again, with the ideology of, like, oh, I let everything go that I catch. Well, why? Your bass shouldn't even be outside the Mississippi watershed. They're invasive species. You should maybe follow the science that says keep some, eat some. How do you fight all that? So before we go into another topic, like what's next on our list? What do we got? I want to go controversial for something fun, because forward-facing sonar.
Let me dive into a really good one here, because Rafi mentioned it a minute ago, and I want to circle back to it. People catching a fish and telling you they caught it on something else, or hanging a lure, which means just hanging a lure in the side of the mouth.
Lip service. We call that. That's lip service. So big baits, lip service. I love it. This is good. So
awful.
Tell me what you think.
It is more prevalent than probably all of us even realize.
I know, got fun.
100%. Half those pros out there are not fishing with the baits that they are paid to fish with. And then they do exactly like you said. They catch a fish, and then, everyone looks away as they put the bait on the lip, and then they take a picture. It's garbage. It's garbage.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but
there are very few pros that can be trusted, in my opinion. I don't think that just because I look like a NASCAR driver and I'm paid, that I should take what they say at face value, because that's not true. I can sit here and we can go back to a Bassmaster Classic where they tout that they won on one thing, and we all damn know it was caught on film. It's garbage.
Yeah. So Rick, I'm going to put you on the spot for a minute, and Rick does not. This question's coming. I know certain influencers who have grown their presence by holding up someone else's fish that they didn't even catch and allowing people to believe that they did.
Yes.
From a brand perspective, Rafi, do you really care if it's still gaining clout towards your brand and helping you sell baits and lures? Do you really care if the influencer caught it or not, or even caught it with your lure or not, if they're still saying that they did?
Well, you said you were putting Rick on the spot, and then you mentioned my name. And now I'm confused.
You're running a brand.
There's a reason why I work with fishing the Lonestar, not fishing the Death Star, right? You know, it's at first when I was new to fishing, I didn't care. You know, it's just but it matters to me. It really matters to me. And I don't think that it's like a question of, oh, somebody will find out and it'll destroy the credibility of the brand, because it's so prevalent that you could just spin it in any way or distance yourself from, you know, the influencer or content creator or pro who happens to be doing that. But to me, it's like, I want to be behind a brand that works. And so it's more selfish, and I'd rather a slow grind, and I'd rather the little stories of people that are fishing because they love fishing and using the baits and telling me about their stories and why it's successful and why they're having a lot of really good luck with that, rather than some big influencer that just, what was it called, Chris? Lip service? I like that. I think I'm gonna steal it.
So you got your big, and this is the thing that happens with guys with big swim baits, is a lot of times you'll get a swim bait fish that attacks the bait, and then it side hooks the side of its head. It's caught near the gills, and you're about to bleed out this fish and kill it. You want to take that hook and bait out. You get the fish back in the water. So then when you're going to hold your picture, you hook the top hook on, and that bait's hanging down out of the side. So we got some lip service. So a great way to take care of the fish is to make sure the hook's out, make sure it's wet, and then get your camera out, having it underwater in a net or something, and then doing lip service and holding that fish up with the bait just hanging over its lip. So that's where it becomes this whole issue of just integrity. I mean, having human beings lie to you to cash in on a paycheck is really what's going on. And that's the fun of, like, Kelly and I forever was constant. Oh, Chris catches all your fish. Chris catches all your fish. Now everyone says Kelly catches all my fish, so, which is fine. I mean, I've dealt with this now for like 9 years. So I think it's interesting though, those that are building brands and growing their business based on lies, at the end of the day, they're not going to be super happy. Yeah. I mean, they might make some money on the short term. It might help their brand, but really, I mean, if you're worried about making money, like, maybe go sell insurance or do something else. Like, there's better ways to make money than probably being in the fishing industry.
That's perfect. Yeah. That's a really perfect segue, because my position in bass fishing is really unique, right? It's, I can't fish, you know, and it's not for lack of trying or being in the right places. And it's also not for lack of invitation, but, you know, time is pretty scarce for me. And so I am not the angler that I hope I once will become. So what am I doing in this industry, right? Am I just trying to fool people into buying baits because I'm trying to turn a buck? That's not really how I'm built, you know? And the way that I could justify my existence in this industry or in any other industry that maybe by practice or by culture or history I don't necessarily belong in is, well, I could at least be a person that could help other people be successful. I could at least be a person that when I see something that I'm like, hey, wow, this really works, and I might not be able to use it very well, but I know exactly why it works and how it's worked for other people, and that this is a quality product. Like, that's where I want to be. And maybe if this was 30 years ago, it would just be more about money for me. But now it's more about longevity. It's more about community. It's more about even being welcome into an industry that, you know, I don't necessarily like quite belong in. And I think that all of us in our lives have that choice, right? It's you know, I met Rick in the Scouts because my son Milo was a scout, and one of Rick's really big things was that we leave wherever we are, whether it's a hiking trail, whether it's a campground, we leave it better than we found it. Not the same, you know, but we leave it better. I want, you know, I want people to be better for having fished with monster bass, for having fished with grande bass, for having listened to this podcast. I want to leave whatever environment I'm in better. And putting baits on fish lips and holding it up, for the camera in order for an ad, like, it doesn't make it, it makes it worse. And it's not why I'm here. It's not what brought me in. Like, Rick brought me into this company. It's not why I came into this company. It's not why he brought me into this company. What up, BB?
Jeremy, I'm sure you've had the experience. People will send me baits, and if I don't know them, sometimes I'm a little hesitant to throw it. But if I know a person and they've worked on a bait and they send it to me, and even like Rick will send out a new monster bass bait, and it's like, maybe there's something better, or I'm more comfortable with using it. I have so much enjoyment trying to catch a fish on a bait from somebody that I know. There's so, like, the endorphin release in the success of catching a bait on somebody's bait that I'm invested in, a friendship, a business relationship. It's like, I want it to work so bad. And when it does, that's the true gold of like, wow, this is incredible. Maybe I had to change how I fished what is similar a little bit to get the new bait to work. But for me, that's the feedback that I like. It's like, yeah, going and catching another fish on what's something that I already know how to fish and I have a lot of success, I don't have a lot of joy in that. And maybe it's because I'm jaded and I've caught too many fish and I live next to basically an aquarium that fish are, there's just a lot of bass in there they like to eat. But having that pressure to catch something, that somebody else has invested their time and their money and their resources, and then I get chosen to test it, I feel like there's that extra pressure, and that's what I like. Do you have that same feeling? You had those experiences?
Yeah. So about a year and a half ago, maybe longer, Rick, you could probably tell me, the Rick Clun Trickster spinnerbait was in one of the boxes, and I was asked to do a video of showing people how to fish it and how to use it. Now, I'm thinking to myself, all right, just like any spinnerbait, I'm pretty good with spinnerbaits. Like, I'll go out and film a video. And as soon as I opened it and tied it on and retrieved it, I was like, uh-oh, this is not like a normal spinnerbait. These blades do things that are way different than a normal spinnerbait does. And I thought to myself, all right, well, I'm still going to use it. I still feel like I can be successful catching a fish and making this video. And I kid you not, I was probably at that lake almost all day and had not caught a single fish. And here I am, like, I got this deadline to meet. I need to get this video over to Rick and Rafi. Like, it's going to be on the Monster Bass channel. I'm supposed to, showcase like how to use this spinnerbait, and I hadn't caught a freaking fish all day with it. And I'm thinking to myself, I could throw on a shaky head. I could throw on an underspin. I could throw on a swim jig, a chatterbait, any other lure that are like my go-to confidence lures. I could throw one of those on and probably catch a fish a whole heck of a lot faster, and then just show me catching that fish, but then later hold the fish up and then maybe hold up the spinnerbait next to it and make you believe that the footage you saw me catching a fish was of that lure as I'm talking about that lure. That would have been a whole heck of a lot easier. And it would have saved me a lot of time as well. But I kept fishing and just had to figure out, okay, what's the uniqueness of this lure? How exactly, like, why was it designed to work and these blades to do what they're doing? And change kind of my perspective throughout the day. And later ended up catching 2 fish. I made a video. Hopefully it was a good one for the Monster Bass channel. But I think a lot of it comes down to pressure, and a lot of guys have pressure to go out and prove to their sponsor or their partner or whoever they're trying to film a video for or make posts for. They're trying to force this stuff into you and share with you and meet a deadline or make sure that they catch a fish and have a fish to show with it. I think it's a lot of pressure, and a lot of people sometimes cave to it and just take the easy way out and just make you believe that lure caught that fish, or even that they caught that fish. Sure. I know instances where fish were caught the day before and kept in a live well, rehooked, let them swim off, and then the person sets the hook and reels them back in as if they just caught that fish.
That's why you always have to have today's paper up, like when
That's right. Yeah. Like your fat loss, like before and after. Like, I'm super skinny now, but it only took a month. Yeah, I actually worked with a paddleboard brand, and this is going back like 8-9 years ago. And they said that they took out 2 anglers, they fished all day long, and they were up in the Sierras. They were looking for trout, and they had to rip bad footage off of YouTube of a trout. And I'm like, we're not doing that. Like, We're going to go to a place that, one, we can catch a fish, but two, I feel like there's no reason to do that. The cool part now with technology, the cast to catch, the ability to show your lure as an influencer, we'll use that word, and to show people the full video with long format, so easy to consume now with YouTube, showing people, hey, this is the lure, this is me casting, this is me hooking it, this is me reeling it in, and this is me holding it up, showing it. Super easy now. So it's one of those things like, who do you trust? Well, you trust the person that shows you what they're using before they cast it, and then you get to see them catch the fish, and then you know if it works. So the beauty is again, a great angler on the right body of water, the right time of day, they could throw anything because the fish are feeding and it's easy to catch a fish. So you got to take all those things into consideration. And then let's jump segue. Somebody may be on a private lake where they selectively harvest all the bass and they feed the bluegill so the forage fish are fat, and then they get to rent the whole lake and nobody else gets to fish that lake. And they're so fortunate and so blessed that they'd be in a location that that's a high ticket gate fee. Who would ever do that? How awesome is that? Tell us about that, Jeremy.
I will not name the brand, but there is a very large brand in the industry. Some might even say the largest brand in the industry that built all of their footage and product footage and fish catches from the very same lakes that, like the exact same lakes that I go to. The biggest difference is I partner with private water fishing, and so it's actually like it's a part of me going out there that I'm also sharing and telling people, promoting that I'm on a private lake. Now, I always want to be very careful to tell people that, because if I'm fishing a private water lake that is 30 acres and is privately managed and has massive big bass, and I know where all the laydowns are, and they're even marked with a PVC pole sticking out of the water to tell me where the laydowns are, I'm not going to that I'm out fishing Lake Ray Roberts, which is an extremely tough lake to fish. Like this lake is no joke. Like the Classic's going to be there next year. I think the last Classic was there, and the pros, I wouldn't say went out and crushed it like they did Lake Fork. So it's a part of my agreement with private water fishing. So tell you and disclose to you. But I think that's the honesty factor. Like, do I go out and get some great content and have a ton of fun on private water lakes? Absolutely. That being said, I drove 3 hours 3 weeks ago to take a lady and her son fishing, and we caught one of the best lakes in the club out in East Texas. We caught 4 fish between the 3 of us in 5 hours of fishing, and not a single one of them was over a pound.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like realistic. If said brand, Guggen brand, whatever you want to say or not say, if you're consuming content to be a consumer of something that's exciting and you want to see big fish, good on them. Genius. It's fun. It's awesome. And to see where their content's gone and the brand they've made, and whether they were using a private lake, sharing it or not sharing it. If you were just watching it to see bass fishing be exciting, I think that's awesome. Inspired. If you just look at the numbers of youth that got into fishing because of those staged, and this is that hard part of like, were they purposely trying to deceive their audience, or were they just staging great content? That's that question, is like, were they dishonest, and were they leading me astray? Are they the devil? Are they bad people? Or they're just like, hey, we're going to do good film cinematography, and I have a producer of my own show. You probably didn't show the 9 hours you went out fishing and sucked and couldn't use the trickster. You may not have been reeling it fast enough. That would have been a good show of, oh my gosh, this thing doesn't work. I can't figure this out. I'm not fishing that good. But I promise you, if you release that, unless people love watching you not catch fish, no one's going to watch that. And that's just the reality of, like, that's the hard part of, like, you could probably get The Rock or some world famous person with millions of followers to watch him not catch fish. Sure, but if you're in the business of sharing catching fish, go to a private lake. Go and I fish I live across the street from a private lake. It is easier to fish than most places, but I don't want to spend the 3 hours to get to Clear Lake. Not saying Clear Lake is easier, but that place has way more clout. I can go to the Delta and get my butt kicked depending on the tide any day of the week I want, but I choose out of convenience to go across the street and fish where it's easier. It's more fun. Yeah. Does that make me a better fisherman? Not in other waters, but I'm pretty dang good across the street, and people like to see the fish I catch. The reality, though, give me some insight. When you're on the fish in a private lake, or you've figured out the pattern in a public lake, do you feel like it's way different, or is it still fishing to you?
No, it's actually, that's what I was going to say is I've heard people say like it doesn't really matter if it's private or public, like it's still fish behavior, and you're still learning how fish react to certain things, and that's totally true. Like there's days that I'll be on a private lake and nothing works except one color and one lure fished one way, like period. The same thing could be said about Lake Ray Roberts. Like there's days I go out here and I spent a whole year kind of telling myself like this lake's 25 minutes from my house. It is a very difficult lake to fish. It's massive. But I spent a whole year and said, you know what, I'm gonna take this year and learn this lake. I probably still haven't even covered but maybe a tenth of it. But I learned like what on this lake works. I learned certain spots different times a year where fish pattern. And now I feel pretty good that I could go out and have a pretty good chance on this lake of going out and catching fish, not getting skunked. But dude, like there's times I go to a private water lake and catch nothing. And there's other days I go out there and like you can't go wrong. Like you can pick any lure out of your tackle box and catch a fish.
Yeah, person in the comment line, they're like, you learn a lot when you're skunked. I've been skunked on my home lake. Like I literally have lived here for 10 years. I lived here earlier in my life. I've been skunked in my home lake. And you're like, I think I know the fish by name at this point, but to go out and have the conditions change so much that the bite is shut down and you're trying everything short of what's working. And you're like, what did I do wrong? And I do love that situation where I get to come back and reflect. I know when I go to a lake that I'm not expecting to catch fish, and I'll use Lake Folsom Lake for an example. I've been in tournaments there where I was skunked 3 days in a row. And I think back, I'm like, I fish so grumpy. I fish not expecting to catch a fish. I fish that.
Fish grumpy
like,
is a great t-shirt, by the way.
I was like, I always say my pouty pants. Like I reach over to Pearson that's being grumpy fishing, and I'm like, I touch their pants. I'm like, dude, you're wearing pouty pants. The fish can feel that. And then I think of myself like, I was fishing so grumpy. Of course the fish don't want to eat my bait because I'm presenting it pissed off. And then after that, it's like, okay, I need to fish more positive, waiting for that reaction of all of the knowledge I have of knowing where the fish should be, what they should be eating, and ready to be successful. But I mean, it's these are these fun things of it is easier to use forward facing sonar. It is easier to fish in private waters. And I think those are those things of there is a point where if you're going on an online tournament, I don't think you should be able to fish in private waters. Do you think this is a controversial thing? Because we want to keep this theme going. Does a 10-pound fish count if it's caught in private water? Is that something you talk about? It's fun.
So private water fishing is not going to like this answer. This is my personal take. My personal best fish was 8.2 pounds. I caught it earlier this year on a private water lake. And my previous PB, it's on the wall right next to me over here, but it was an 8.01 pounder on Lake Fort. If you ask me what my PB is, I'm going to tell you it's an 8.01 pounder caught on Lake Fort, because for me, it just means a little bit more, because 2 weeks later, a buddy of mine that I know was out on the same private water lake and literally caught the exact same fish. Like identical, 8.21 pounds, held it up. I put the photos side by side, had the exact same pattern on the scales. Like it was the exact
Their
same
name
fish.
tags both read Eddie.
Yeah, that's right. No, we've had that at our lake where a guy caught a 10 pounder. It's like 10.3, and then now it's actually lost a little weight. It's gotten skinnier. And so I'm with you. Public water lends more credibility. I still think it's cool if you catch a 10 pounder in private water, but because not everyone had access, plus they're not managing the fishery normally as well in the private sector. I mean, the public sector, they're probably not feeding bluegill or making the fish bigger or doing selective harvest. But Rick, go ahead.
But the question was, is it okay in an online tournament? And I've got to believe that online tournaments are going to forbid having you catch fish in a private water, right? Because it's just not fair. Yep. I mean, listen, I don't care about the PB thing where you catch it and all that. That doesn't matter to me. But if you're fishing in a private water in a tournament and the rules say no, then you're cheating.
Yeah. It's
Bingo.
like
no, that's what I was. It is that's the point would be some people say, oh, you got to let me fish my private lake. It's like, no, like you,
like it's still an accomplishment. It's still an accomplishment
100%.
that no one can take away from you, but it's the difference between running a marathon outside in the elements versus running a marathon on a treadmill. Not very many people can do it, but it's way different on a treadmill than it is actually outside, like running through the streets of Boston.
Totally.
Yeah. I mean, that's my business. I'll go one step further. It's different to run a marathon wherever you choose, or getting up and getting to an event and having the time clock say at 7 o'clock, you had to leave your house at 4. That's also a different accomplishment of doing it under the gun. So all of these
100%.
things we talk about, this is why it's fun to have this controversy. If you've caught a 10 pounder, you're a better fisher or a luckier angler than most people in the world. I've never caught a double digit fish. I want one. I really want one in public water. And it's not even for anyone else. Like, who cares? But it's still like, oh my gosh, I haven't caught a fish that big. I think there's something also to be said about these lakes that you have. Like, let's get to that. What is going on? What are they feeding the fish in Texas? Because I'd like to argue that California fishing versus Texas fishing, I don't even know what to argue, because if we don't have a lunker share program, we don't have 13-pound fish jumping out of the Delta anymore. What are you doing in Texas? And I think it's something to do with the freezes that happen. I've tried to follow some really smart
I could take
aquatic
this one,
biologists.
Chris.
Yeah, so let me know, because
Yeah.
there's some cool science behind why the fish are getting as big as they are.
There's been a lot of
Go
debate
for it.
and a lot of theory around it. But most people, after they bite into a trash Whataburger, discard everything but the bite that's in their face into the local waters. Whereas anyone who eats a delicious In-N-Out double-double, they finish the entire thing and don't feed the fish with it. And so in Texas, you have the byproduct, because they like crappy burgers, of bigger bass.
Takes one bite, so small.
No, whatever they're doing, I might start throwing In-N-Out. I mean, I'll go and buy In-N-Out burgers and throw them in the lakes to feed our fish if that's what it takes. But what is going on?
I've got two thoughts. And the first one, I'm going to take a jab at this comment and we can move on. But these fish would not be caught without forward-facing sonar.
Hey,
Chris,
the guys that are catching them admit it. They don't care. Like, again, it's legal. They're catching them. They're fishing in spots that nobody would fish.
But you asked the question, what is causing all these big fish to all of a sudden get big or to grow?
No. Because I asked the question is like, what the heck is going on in Texas? Because we have forward-facing sonar, and some of the best guys in the world use it in California. Those fish are literally not here. And I know part of it is, if we're looking at the equator, we're looking at lines of latitude and the feeding season, your fish get bigger. But we got pretty good lakes down south, but we don't get the rains that you have. You don't get the water coming into it. We don't have the food. California did a great job for years, and it cost millions of dollars to feed our big bass fingerling trout. And we really appreciated Department of Fish and Game doing that. They're not doing that. So your nutrient dense lakes lower on latitude lines, you guys just have monster fish. And I'm just going to tell you, as a Californian, I'm jealous. Your Department of Fish and Game also does a little different management than California. Like, literally, I grew up diving for abalone for 29 years. Environmentally, there were some issues that happened, but we can't fish for abalone, can't fish for salmon again. We cut down our rock fishing. Like, we're not having a great track record in California. But Texas, shine some light. Like, what does it feel like to be a Texas angler? Not just everything's bigger in Texas, because I lived in Texas, so I can claim the state for 3 years of my youth. Like, what's so I lived in Houston, so I get to be cool. The Astrodome, we were near there, and Jeremy and I've talked about that. What is up with Texas? What's the success? What's going on?
Well, I mean, first of all, like the ShareLunker program, there is something to that. So just real quick overview. I won't go into all the details, but essentially, if you catch a 10-pounder or bigger, actually it's 13 pounds. Sorry, so if you catch a 13-pounder or bigger between January 1st and April 1st, Texas Parks and Wildlife, you call them, they will come to you with a truck that has a big tank on the back. They will take that female and take it back to their spawning facility in Athens, Texas, and they will obviously spawn the eggs, fertilize them, but they also fertilize them with, arguably a pretty large male, and then they're basically taking that offspring then and putting it back in the lake that it came from. They take the female and put her back in the lake that it came from, and then take the remaining fry and fingerlings, put most of them in the lake they came from, and put the rest of them back in other lakes. So you have, for example, Bodark Lake is brand new, just opened about 6 months ago in Texas. The majority
How does a
of
lake open? You
So,
explain that to me?
yeah, they basically flood farmland. So the state basically buys up the land, dams it up, and eventually floods it. There's a lot of engineering that goes on. It's actually kind of cool when you look at the map. Like if you go on Google Earth and you look at the map, the boat ramp actually stops. Like here's the water level. The boat ramp may stop up here. And they know through engineering that once they flood it, that water is going to come up to the level of the boat ramp. That now the boat ramp is under the water. So it's actually really
That's cool.
This is like 4 years of developing this lake to see where they put the boat ramps, knowing that at some point in time the water will get to that, but won't get any higher. I don't understand engineering. It's pretty cool what they did it. Anyways, this new lake in Texas, almost, I won't say all, but I think almost all of the stocking came from offspring of the ShareLunker program. So when you talk about like just what they're doing, that's really darn cool that you have, a state that realizes the revenue that's generated off of fishing. I mean, my parents live 5 minutes from Lake Fork. I promise you, Lake Fork, a huge part of the economy in that town in Emory, Texas, and Yantis is another town that's close to it, is because of bass fishing. So when your state also realizes, hey, we're going to take the money from what we're charging people on licensing and everything else, and create this program to continue to pour back into it, it's really pretty cool.
Would you like to hear something non-controversial?
Wait.
No, hold on. You can go right back into it, but give me this one. This is important. This is very important.
I had a zinger. Okay,
you could have your zinger after this. I have a plug. Plug Trump's
I'm gonna forget.
zinger.
You know how old I am. I'm so
all right, give me the
old.
zinger.
Right, I'll hold it.
Do the zinger.
Oh, I'm gonna wait because
I don't want to plug it now.
I don't want to share it.
All right. Do you guys know, non-controversial, how many verified ShareLunkers Grande Bass is responsible for?
Oh, that's pretty cool. No, I don't. Tell.
Wait.
Tell.
Wait. Tell it. Wait, you can tell us?
I can tell you.
No, not you, Jeremy.
It'd take me a minute to find the spreadsheet and sort it real quick, but I could look it up.
That's amazing.
Okay.
Don't say it in case we're wrong.
I think I know.
Don't say it in case we're wrong.
All right.
Even if there's one, like if there's one Grande Bass on ShareLunker, like that's awesome. But
there's more than one.
But yeah, whatever number we say, we got to make sure we're right. We're going off of Jerry, so you were talking about people lipping fish. I don't know what Camp Jerry falls into.
No, Camp Matt Brown verified it, and so I'm going off of Matt.
Oh,
just drop it.
Drop
the
it.
knowledge.
What is it?
What is it?
18.
Oh,
Yes. Hey.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
How many with forward-facing sonar?
0.
Who cares?
Yeah. No, we care.
No care.
Maybe that's unverified.
Okay.
All right,
one thing I will say,
zinger?
fish. Well, this is not the zinger, but Fish with Gramps. You talked about Five Guys. There's so many better burgers in the 2 burger place you mentioned. I don't even want to get into that, but
Let's have
as
that
a
conversation.
Five Guys.
Just in a minute. Yeah. There's just so many good burgers, but this is what's important as a Californian because I'm so interested in my environment. So you're saying Texas fish are Monsanto, Bill Gates designed genetically modified fish. Isn't that cheating? So like you are literally playing God in Texas and mixing the best gene pool. That's sacrilegious in fishing. This is great. This is the irony of all this.
Yep.
Bass, largemouth bass specifically, should not be outside of the Mississippi watershed.
Okay. Also,
I can't keep saying that enough to humans to understand. You're taking a fish that should not be in Texas, unless I don't know my geography that well, and you've put them in a place where they've grown. This is my question earlier. Like, what have you done to make fishing better? Texas can say, oh, we have the ShareLunker program. Major League Fishing tests fish. I think it's 6 pounds, maybe 7, maybe 8. Somebody find out and put in the chat. They test all the fish caught in Major League Fishing. They test their genetics. They want to see northern strain, Florida strain, what makeup they have to identify the characteristics that grow the fish that we like to catch and play with, and most often throw back so we can play with them again another day. So the beauty of what's going on in Texas is on a high level, who pays for that program, by the way? On a high level, they're trying to enhance fishing in Texas. So, hey, Texas, as much as I like to eat organic and I don't like genetically modified food, I'm fine. Genetically modify your fish because I want to come to Texas and catch something over 10 pounds.
Also, Chris.
But I'll put an asterisk. I'll put an asterisk. This was a genetically modified fish.
No. So if there's one thing that Jeremy has taught me over the last 3 years, it's nobody plays God in Texas. God plays Texas everywhere else.
Wow.
Texas is like the Chuck Norris of the Lord and Savior.
Well, Chuck Norris. And that's a whole nother thing. Is like your action figure. We have so many controversial things, but maybe since we're looking at time, let's maybe close out the show. Because what's the best burger? Do we want to fight over that? Like the best?
That's a whole show.
By the way, that's a whole show with samples in front of us.
Well, how are we going to do that?
We all have to. We just go buy whatever's
really, Rick?
close.
You don't know how to get burgers in front of us?
Yeah.
All
right.
That's where you fall down. That's your kryptonite.
Whataburger. I gotta eat a Whataburger.
Get to eat a Whataburger.
I don't. It's like eating Burger King. I said it.
I love
eating Burger Princess.
The chat. I love the chat. Like, who brought Aaron Brockovich to this chat? I don't know. The person trying to save your children from having leukemia from tainted groundwater. That person is important. But hey, I'm not that guy with bass fishing. I don't like children getting leukemia. Exactly. So
we could have gotten into so many more heated topics. Yeah, this is fun. It's
like, you want to come back for round 2?
Let's do a round 2.
Everyone's asking about the August box. The fact that
what's up with the August box?
The fact that we're not going to show them anything is controversial in and of itself.
Yeah, round 2. They can come back next week. You can come back next week and we can go through it.
Is there a burger in the August box?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, a coupon. We need to get some
Hunt.
food coupons. Food coupons in the boxes to help people out. Try their
Lunker Hunt's going to come out with the burger.
Oh, don't say that.
I'm going to put In-N-Out coupons in all the boxes.
All right. And that Caro is why Fix does not have a camera.
Let's agree that we're going to come back for round 2. And Jeremy, you're going to set the topics and we're going to discuss those.
People will be emotionally damaged.
I love that.
Yes.
Good. Come on. We haven't had a good cry on the show in a long time. Come on, let's do it.
Some of us are starting out emotionally damaged, so we're ahead of the game, all right?
I mean, there's some things that need to be said about this industry that aren't being said. So.
Agreed. And this is the greatest platform for it. So let's do it.
Can you give us without going into any detail, because I know this is tough, can you give us a check box of like 2 or 3 that you want to bring up just to lead people into joining us next week? What are the top 3 controversial things without any explanation? Drop them so we know what to look forward to.
Tournament fishing is one. We kind of touched around some of them today, but we didn't. Let's see. What was? I'm trying to think. What was one of the other ones? Fishing lures.
Yeah.
That was that we were going to get into was fishing.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Also, Invisalign tainting the gene pool by tricking people into thinking that their mate has straight teeth.
That's so erroneous. My poor children in this dating pool, like everyone is beautiful. How do you choose a mate with the? No, never mind.
Yeah.
Keep going. What else you got?
We touched on one earlier. Just all the deception happens.
Are we going to name names? I don't know.
It wouldn't be controversial if we didn't.
We might need to think that one through.
I'm expendable. I'll name all the names.
Can I? Okay, I want number. Lures, but lures handcrafted in the PRC. Can that be one?
Okay, sure.
Did that come across? The lures that have been handcrafted in the PRC versus made elsewhere.
Okay,
you remember our conversation? So if we have a China-based lure company versus somewhere else, like I know that the stigma we try to put on things, I want to touch on that. Future.
Yeah, I think that goes in line with what I was going to talk about in fishing lures as well. And the other one that's recent is the world of kayak fishing. Would love to discuss what that's. So
This is so good.
So excited. Yeah. Can't wait. Next week. Fighting. Let's go.
those fighting words.
So good. So good. Well, Jeremy, thanks for jumping straight from the airport to the show today. We really appreciate it. It's always a great time when you're here. And I look forward to part 2. I guess we can confirm the date and the time, unless you can confirm the date and the time now.
I mean, heck, I think we can make next week work.
Let's do it.
Okay. Exciting. Exciting.
Yeah. Like, Rick, we've come a long ways because, like, right when you started these, I was just the guy that, like, just hung out in the chats and just left zingers the whole time and just tried to distract you. So we've come a long ways.
Yeah, we have. And I'm grateful that you're still here.
I'm grateful to be here, too, and I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always fun.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I hope you and your family are doing well. And we'll let you go off so you can be with the kiddos.
Sweet.
All right, man. We'll see you next
Hey,
week.
before you go, hey, wait, Fishing Lonestar, how do people follow you? Like, what's the link? I think it's underneath there, but those that are just listening, how does somebody get a hold of Fishing Lonestar? Where do they follow you at?
Yeah, so I kind of kept the same handle on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube of just Fishing the Lonestar, THE. Sometimes there's underscores, sometimes there's not. But if you just search Fishing the Lonestar, you'll probably see me pop up there. Or just go watch some of the recent Monster Bass videos. So we've got some put out there to kind of call out some tips and techniques. And so I'm sure most of that are on this live feed are already in tune with those. But.
Awesome. Cool. All right, man. Say hi to the family.
All right, man. We'll see you later. Bye.
I guess.
Jeremy Francis.
Yeah. Dude's a stud. He's such a cool guy. Yeah.
Stand-up guy. He's very similar to you. I mean, you married your high school sweetheart. He married his college sweetheart. I think I got that right. I don't think he was with her in college. Or, I mean, in high school. College. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah,
I like
bunch of kids fishing. Dude's I love teasing with him because he gets passionate, and then after you've talked to him enough, later he'll be like, "I actually don't even believe what I was arguing with you about." It's like on both of us, it's like probably should have been lawyers, but didn't want to go down that route. I just love to have the conversation. So he's a good guy to drop some zingers because he is passionate about his own beliefs, which I think is important as well. So it's good to have opinions, but also to be able to talk about people with different opinions. That's what keeps us united as Americans. So I think that's, moving into an election year, which we'll never talk about. I think from today's show, we can have discussions with people we don't agree with. And that's what allows us to progress. I think that's important. Yeah. The Olympics are dumb to some. Can't wait to check out my review of Olympics tonight myself. But we all love each other. So
yeah. Last question before I let you go. You mentioned that the surfing was in Jobu. I thought Jobu was some. Oh, Tiobu. I thought it was Jobu. I was like, wait a minute.
It's that big crazy break that's like way off.
It's the end of the road. Yeah, it's Tiopu. And I don't even say it right. It's Tiopu, but hey, it's a pretty cool place. Check it out. French Polynesia.
And watching the surfing, just in general at that spot is almost as much fun or as watching like the boats wreck that mistime the waves that are all out there. Like it is crazy out there.
The flotilla they get taken out sometimes. That place is a pretty special place. So no, hey, it's been an awesome show. It's fun to do some controversial stuff, but it's just fun to be back to chat, talk about fishing for, an hour and a half or whatever. Like what a cool thing. I'll tell you in the chat, we had a troll. It's super cool to see the troll pop up. And I literally think the Monster Bass people, if there's ever a war in this country, I just want to be around my Monster Bass family because they're like, hey, this is a family to us. They're like ready to fight. That poor person that was in there just kind of, messing up. It's like, what a cool group. If you're in the chat, if you listen, you watch these shows, like we're all a family. And I know we all have different beliefs. We all have different backgrounds. And what a cool thing to have bass fishing unite us. And Rick, I mean, you've done a really cool thing in the industry to unite a bunch of people that are interested in fishing, and it's gone way beyond that. So congrats to that.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for both you guys coming back. I mean, you went on vacation, and who knows, you could have disappeared. So welcome back.
Good to be back.
Yeah. No, I went on a work trip to New York, and I, God bless California is all I can say. In a place that most people run from, New York is pretty intense. It's a whole different world. We'll talk about it on a different show sometime. But yeah, it's good to be here.
That's good. All right, you guys. We'll see you later.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Thanks.